From the shore, it just looks like two dead pieces of concrete sticking out of the sea. Fishermen in Ube, Japan, walk past them every day, two gray tubes rising from the calm water of the Seto Inland Sea. No signs, no fences, nothing to explain them. But those tubes are the last breathing holes of a world that no longer exists, an undersea coal mine that once stretched thousands of feet under the ocean. On a winter morning in 1942, the sea finally punched through the roof of that mine, and the company responded by sealing the entrance with wood and concrete. While more than 180 men were still inside, most of them weren't even there by choice. For 80 years, their bodies have stayed down there in the dark. If you're sensitive to real-life tragedy, you may want to stop here. The city of Ube, on Japan's main island of Honshu, looks ordinary from a distance. Fishing boats in the bay, families walking the beach. But if you look out toward the water, you'll see those two cylinders breaking the surface. Locals call them pias, ventilation shafts from the long-closed Chōsei coal mine. Beneath them, at about 40 meters below sea level, runs a web of tunnels carved into the seabed. Coal has been pulled from the Ube field since the 1600s, when small surface pits supplied blacksmiths and potters. By the late 1800s, as Japan industrialized at high speed, coal became the country's lifeblood. Mines chased seams under hills, under farmland, and finally, out under the sea itself. Ube exploded from a quiet village into a city of 100,000. By 1940, the field was producing over 4 million tons of coal a year. Those numbers powered factories and warships. They were also built on the backs of men who had almost no say in being there. By the late 1930s, Japan's empire was chewing through coal faster than local laborers could dig it. To keep places like Chōsei running, the government in Korea and company officials in Ube built a system that started with recruitment and slid quickly into forced labor. Village elders were pressured to hand over men. Later, the state simply drafted them. By 1942, more than 200 Koreans were working at Chōsei. Nearly half of all the mine's dirty, dangerous work, hauling coal, cutting new tunnels, maintaining the undersea passages, fell on men who lived behind 10-foot fences topped with barbed wire and watched by guards. Their dormitories were prisons in all but name. One miner, Kim Wondal, left a letter describing tunnels so close to the sea that he could hear boat engines above his head, and the constant fear that the ceiling would give way. Escape attempts were met with beatings that sometimes ended in death. Staying meant a slower version of the same thing. The mine itself was a ticking bomb. Tunnels lay only 20 to 30 meters below the seafloor in places, even though geologists now say anything less than 60 meters of rock in that area is high risk. In late 1941, leaks began to open. On November 30th, a serious inflow of seawater burst into the workings. Pumps pushed it back, timbers were shoved into cracks, and work continued. Over the next 3 months, more leaks appeared. Men underground could hear the sea hissing through faults. Management knew the geology. They also knew Tokyo wanted coal more than it wanted caution. Rather than shut down, they jammed in more wooden supports and told the pumps to run harder. On February 3rd, 1942, they pushed their luck past breaking. That morning was designated for an especially heavy haul. To speed things up, workers were ordered to remove some ceiling supports in one main tunnel. Around 6 a.m., water began seeping in faster than usual. By 9:30 a.m., more than a kilometer from the shaft, the overburden finally failed. One of the main galleries ripped open. The roof collapsed, walls split, and a wall of seawater, mud, and broken timber blasted down the tunnel. More than 200 miners were underground. Escape routes jammed instantly, logs, tools, and bodies piling up. Survivors later described men trying to climb onto floating beams while others were trampled behind them, all in pitch darkness as lamps were knocked out. A handful clawed their way into higher side passages. 183 others did not. When the water finally equalized, they lay entombed beneath the bay. The next morning, the company sealed the entrance with pine and concrete. There was no serious rescue attempt. Officially, it was too dangerous and too flooded. Unofficially, the coal still left in other parts of the network was considered more valuable than the men already drowned. In wartime Japan, Korean miners were treated as expendable. Newspapers mentioned the disaster in a single sentence, claiming drainage efforts were underway and many had been rescued. It was a lie. Censorship and racism did the rest. Even after Japan's surrender, the story stayed mostly buried. Chōsei limped on for a few years with a new entrance, then closed for good. The flooded workings became a silent mass grave. That could have been the end of it. In 1976, historian Takenobu Yamaguchi published research showing the disaster wasn't a tragic fluke, but the predictable result of thin rock, ignored warnings, and forced labor. Local citizens formed a group to record survivors' accounts and track down families in Korea. By the early 1990s, bereaved relatives crossed to Japan for the first joint memorials. A stone monument at Ube now lists the names of the dead in Japanese and Korean and bluntly condemns the use of forced labor. For decades, though, the actual shaft where the 183 men died remained sealed and half forgotten under rubbish and timbers. That finally began to change in 2024. After years of lobbying, civic groups and descendants located the buried entrance. Excavators peeled back concrete and rotted wood until dark water spilled out. Proof that the tunnels were still there, pressurized after 80 years. Divers entered from both the reopened shaft and the old ventilation tubes. Their helmet lights cut through black-green water, revealing exactly what the survivors had described: collapsed timbers, twisted rails, side passages climbing toward darkness. In 2025, Japanese and Korean teams began joint dives, threading safety lines through the maze, searching for bones. A fragment found in May first raised hopes, only to be identified as animal. Days later, divers recovered a human skull, an almost complete skeleton, lying as if the owner had simply lain down and never moved again. It was the first confirmed set of remains from the mine. Even with that, the Japanese government has refused to launch a full investigation, citing safety and uncertainty over where the bodies are. For the families, it means they may never retrieve their relatives from the sea-soaked rock. For everyone else, those two gray tubes sticking out of the Seto Inland Sea are all that mark the place where 183 men, most of them slaves in all but name, were sealed into the dark so the war machine above them could keep burning coal. Divers who've been inside say the mine feels like a time capsule that's rotting from the inside out. Every timber they pass was cut by someone who never got to leave. Every rusted rail once rattled with carts full of coal the empire pretended was worth more than human lives. The deeper they go, the more the silt hides what's left, turning bodies and tools alike into the same featureless mud. And for the people who still live around Ube Bay, those two concrete stumps are slowly changing meaning. They're no longer just strange shapes on the horizon. They're markers of a crime their grandparents were never allowed to talk about. As long as they stand above the waterline, they're a reminder that some disasters aren't over just because the newspapers stopped mentioning them. Under that quiet stretch of sea, the Chōsei coal mine is still there, flooded and dark, full of unanswered questions and men who went to work one morning and were never allowed to come home. Thank you for watching Rare Data TV.